On Monday, the 25th of September 2006, 14-year-old Georgine Kruger was making her way home from school when she suddenly vanished into thin air. There was no trace of her. It was almost as if someone erased her out of existence in a matter of seconds. Investigators searched the entire neighborhood, questioning everyone they came across, but no one had seen her. After 14 years of hopeless searching, the truth has finally come out. What happened to Georgine? How did she disappear? And why did the case take 14 years to be solved? On September 25, 2006, 14-year-old Georgine Kruger couldn't wait for school to be over so she could go home. As soon as the school day ended, she quickly gathered her belongings, went straight to the bus station, and began her journey home. She got off the bus at 1:45 p.m., and since her stop was close to her home, she was expected to walk the rest of the way. The distance between the bus stop and Georgine's house was approximately 200 meters, which is equivalent to a 3-minute walk. Georgine quickly began the walk home, but halfway through the journey, she suddenly disappeared without a trace. That morning, Georgine had woken up excited and filled with anticipation. Not because it was a new week, but because she was expecting a call that would mark the beginning of her acting career. She had recently applied for a movie role in a TV series and was waiting for a confirmation call to know if she had landed the role. As she prepared for school that morning, the only thing on her mind was getting back home on time so that she could take the call. Before leaving for school, Georgine turned to her grandmother, who had plans to spend the day at home, and demanded that she stay by the phone at all times just in case the call came in when she was still at school. With that said, Georgine left for school with her hopes high. As the day went by, she kept looking at the clock, wishing that time could go faster. The school day eventually ended, but unfortunately, Georgine never made it back home. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, Georgine's grandmother had prepared lunch, set the table, and was waiting for her granddaughters to come home from school. Georgine was supposed to return first, while her little sister, Michelle, would return later because she had music classes that afternoon. Georgine was born on April 11, 1992, and was the middle child of 3 children. Her older brother, Tommy, was 8 years older than her, while her little sister, Michelle, was 2.5 years younger than her. The family lived a simple life in Munich until Georgine's parents decided to split up. Georgine, who was just 11 years old at the time, and her younger sister were going to live with their mother, Vesna, while Tommy, who was already 19, decided to live with his father. In June 2006, Vesna got a well-paying job in Berlin and decided to relocate there. Vesna moved to Berlin with her mother and 2 girls. As at the time of Georgine's disappearance, the family had only been in Berlin for about 3 months. That afternoon, Georgine's grandmother was surprised when around 3 o'clock, Michelle walked in and Georgine had not yet returned. Sensing something strange, the grandmother began trying to contact Georgine. She knew that her granddaughter was excited about the phone call and didn't have any plans to stay out late. The grandmother began to slightly panic when she realized that Georgine's phone was switched off all afternoon. Vesna returned from work later that day to receive the news that Georgine had not returned from school and all attempts to reach her had failed. Vesna immediately knew that something was seriously wrong, so she did what any sane parent would do in that situation. She picked up her phone and called Georgine's school. She was told that her daughter had attended all her classes and left school at the right time. The next thing she did was to call up Georgine's friends, hoping to hear that the girls were hanging out and had lost track of time. Unfortunately, none of Georgine's friends knew where she was. They said that Georgine was in a hurry after school and had gotten on the bus. At this point, Vesna and her mother went to the nearest police station to report Georgine's disappearance. However, the police didn't give immediate attention to the case. They believed Georgine was probably out on a date or that she might have gotten into a fight with her friends and was cooling off at a park. Things took a more serious turn when police checked all the possible places where she could be and still couldn't find her. Next, they began checking accident reports in hospitals. They considered the possibility that Georgine could have gotten into an accident and was taken to a hospital. Unfortunately, none of the hospitals had admitted any patients that fit her description. At this point, it became obvious that the 14-year-old girl had gone missing. The search for Georgine began that night, with police officers interviewing neighbors to know if anyone had seen her. The investigation revealed that Georgine was last seen when she got off the bus and turned onto her street. By every indication, somewhere between the bus stop and her home, something sinister had happened to her. Since there was little to no information to help investigators find Georgine, they decided to track her cell phone signal. They discovered that she had indeed been at school until closing time, boarded the bus, and gotten off at her stop. However, they noticed that halfway to her house, the signal suddenly disappeared, and that was the last time the signal was seen. The search for Georgine was thorough and extensive, with everyone involved and no possibilities ruled out. Police, assisted by cadaver dogs, scoured the area in hopes of finding her, but there was no trace. Investigators interviewed residents and searched all basements and attics in the vicinity, but still didn't find anything. Pictures of Georgine were posted all over the city with hopes that someone who had valuable information would see them and come forward. As soon as the posters were put up, the police began to receive calls from various parts of the city, with people claiming to have seen Georgine. Upon further investigation, it became clear that all sightings reported were false. At this point, investigators had no more clues or leads to follow, so they decided to try a different approach. They decided to look into previously convicted residents in the neighborhood, as well as people who had at one point or another shown an unhealthy interest in minors. Unfortunately, this new approach didn't yield any results. In the next couple of months, investigators exhausted all means of searching. With no more clues or leads, the case slowly grew cold. For nearly a decade, the case remained cold. However, in 2016, the police got a phone call that would change everything. The caller informed the authorities that one of their neighbors was in the habit of inviting minors to his house. When police looked into the matter, they discovered what can only be described as an enemy hiding in plain sight. The man in question was a 43-year-old man named Ali K. Ali was a Turkish immigrant who was married with 3 kids. To the outside world, he was just a regular guy, but behind closed doors, he was a troubled soul. Investigators discovered that Ali had been under investigation 4 years prior. In that case, he was said to have lured a 15-year-old girl into his basement with the promise of selling her a smartphone. When they got to his basement, Ali hit the girl, groped her, and kissed her, but she managed to fight back and escape. Following the disturbing incident, Ali was arrested and sentenced to 1.5 years in prison. However, the sentence was suspended due to an appeal. With this discovery, investigators took interest in Ali and began to monitor his movements. They soon realized that he was interested in underage girls. Things took an even darker turn when police discovered that his house was around the area where Georgine had disappeared. In order to find proof of his connection to Georgine's disappearance, investigators enlisted an undercover cop who posed as a business owner to get into Ali's life. The undercover cop claimed to be opening a new business in town and offered Ali a job. Ali, who was jobless at the time, jumped at the opportunity and took the job. By the end of the investigation, there were 3 undercover cops around Ali who were all his close friends. After several months, Ali finally confessed to one of them that he had abducted and murdered Georgine. Ali told the undercover cop that on the day Georgine went missing, he had positioned himself in front of his house with a few bags. He then asked Georgine to help him carry one of the bags into his basement. The little girl didn't think much of it and agreed to help. As soon as they got into the basement, Ali revealed his true intentions. He hit Georgine on the head, which caused her to fall to the floor and lose consciousness. Ali then proceeded to take advantage of her while in that state, after which he strangled her. He then wrapped up her body in a carpet and covered the ends with plastic bags. He cut up Georgine's ID to pieces, used a hammer to smash her cell phone, and then flushed the tiny parts into the toilet. 3 days later, while the investigation was going on, Ali disposed of Georgine's body in the household garbage. As Ali confessed his crimes to the undercover cop, he had no idea that the conversation was being recorded. On December 4, 2018, Ali K. was arrested. He initially tried to deny everything he had said, but the conversation was recorded, and the prosecution had all it needed to take him to court. The trial dragged on for 2.5 years, with Ali claiming that the story he had told the undercover cop was fabricated. However, in March 2020, almost 14 years after Georgine Kruger disappeared, the trial ended with Ali getting a sentence of life in prison with the possibility of parole. All Georgine did was help a neighbor out, and unfortunately, she lost her life in the process. For nearly 14 years, Georgine's family thought about her and wished she would come home one day until the news of her death came. Although her life was abruptly cut short, Georgine will always remain in the hearts of those that loved her.